Hello Year 9 and 10. Today you'll be revising Bayonet Charge by Ted Hughes. To start off with, can you match the devices to the quotations from the poem? Pause the video now to give it a go. Okay, check your answers. If you attempted the STAR challenge, well done. However, we will not go through these just yet, as each quotation and the effect of these devices will be looked at more in depth as you answer the comprehension questions in the construct phase. Today you'll be revising Bayonet Charge by Ted Hughes, as it's another poem in the AQA Power and Conflict cluster for your GCSEs, and you'll be doing comprehension questions and responding to an essay question. What do you remember about the poem Bayonet Charge? Can you write at least 3 details from the poem? And for your STAR challenge, any quotations which you can remember. Pause the video now. Okay, add to your notes. So Bayonet Charge describes the moment a soldier goes over the top, or in other words, climbs out of the trenches to charge at the enemy. The conflict which Bayonet Charge depicts is not specified in the poem. However, going over the top, coupled with the references to a bayonet as well as the king, allows the reader to presume that this is about World War I. The poem portrays the reflex action of a soldier waking up and then suddenly charging with a bayonet. The poem's volta, so its turning point, envisages the soldier becoming a killing machine. Bayonet Charge is made up of 3 stanzas of free verse, so basically with no regular rhyme or rhythm scheme. This could reflect the chaos and confusion of being in battle. Let's look at some of the words from the poem which might be new to you. Can you write down the words which you do not understand and their definitions as well? So the first one is a bayonet. A bayonet is a blade which is fixed to the end of a rifle. If you have a look at the image on the bottom right hand corner, this should allow you to better understand what a bayonet is. The second word is clods. These are lumps of soil, or basically lumps of mud. The third word is patriotic. If you are patriotic, you love your country. The final word is statuary. This means statues, or a collection of statues. Choose one of these new words and explode it in your keyword mind map. Pause the video now. Stanza 1 of Bayonet Charge. Suddenly he awoke and was running, raw. In raw seemed hot khaki, his sweat heavy, stumbling across a field of clods towards a green hedge that dazzled with rifle fire, hearing bullets smacking the belly out of the air. He lugged the rifle, numb as a smashed arm, the patriotic tear that had brimmed in his eye, sweating like molten iron from the centre of his chest. Pause the video and answer the questions below. Number 1. In media res means in the middle of things. As readers, we are placed right in the middle of the action from the beginning of the poem. The effect is that this creates a sense of immediacy and urgency. The word suddenly creates a sense of confusion for the reader, as we don't know what is happening. This reflects the trance-like state the soldier must be in to go from waking up to running to attack. It could also represent him waking up from a daydream into the reality, as he now truly understands how bad the war is. If we think back to the poem Exposure, people were fed propaganda to get them to enlist. The reality of war was a nasty surprise to many. Number 2. The adjective raw is repeated. We know if a word is repeated, it has been emphasised and is therefore important. It could have several meanings. The soldier is a new recruit and is therefore raw and inexperienced. Raw could also represent his emotions in terms of his fear and vulnerability. Additionally, raw seemed hot khaki refers to his new uniform, which would have been uncomfortable. Military uniform was not nearly as well made as it is today. Therefore, the rawness could represent it rubbing and irritating him. Number 3. The verbs stumbling and dazzled add to the chaos and confusion of what the soldier is facing. He's running through an uneven, lumpy, war-savaged field of clods, which is making him trip and stumble. Yet he has to look straight ahead to where he's going, towards the enemy. He's dazzled by rifle fire, so blinded by the glare of something lethal being used against him. Remember, his own rifle is being used as a bayonet, so we can infer that his own side might be out of bullets. Number 4. You may have found quotations with different violent imagery in this stanza. That's okay, as there are a few to be found. The first one I'm going to discuss is bullets smacking the belly out of the air. We have both personification and alliteration here. The alliteration is with the repetition of the B sound. The effect of this alliteration is that it reflects the vicious sounds of the firing bullets. By personifying the air with a belly, it adds a layer of vulnerability. You cannot help but imagine a soldier's belly being attacked by bullets. The second one I want to discuss is the simile. He lugged a rifle numb as a smashed arm. This likewise conjures up in our minds violent images of soldiers with excruciating injuries. However, as mentioned earlier, his gun being effectively used as a spear will tell us that it is suddenly pretty useless in contrast to the rifle with bullets, so perhaps it is as useless as an injured arm too. Number 5. The word in line 7 which tells us he is no longer patriotic is had. This is significant as it tells us that he was once patriotic. He loved his country and believed in his purpose of being in the war. But that is no longer the case. His terrible experiences in war has now killed that patriotism. He has lost his pride of being there and his optimism. He has also lost his purpose. Stanza 2. In bewilderment then he almost stopped. In what cold clockwork of the stars and the nations was he the hand pointing that second? He was running, like a man who has jumped up in the dark and runs listening between his footfalls for the reason of his still running. And his foot hung like statuary in mid-stride. Then the shot slashed furrows. Pause the video now and answer the questions. Number 6. The hyphen after stopped makes the reader stop, and thereby the structure reflects the meaning. It also pauses to signal the volta or the change in the next line. Number 7. The line cold clockwork of the stars and the nations is our volta, so our turning point in the poem. This is a point in which the soldier has paused mid-stride and makes his transition from a normal soldier into a killing machine. The harsh sounds of the alliterative k in cold clockwork reflects this. The imagery of clockwork and cogs makes us see the soldier as another cog in the machine of war, a cold yet necessary part of the fate of our nation. Number 8. The double meaning of the word hand is this could be the soldier's hand pointing as he is paused in mid-stride, or it could be the hand of a clock paused and pointing as time stands still during our volta. It is deliberately ambiguous, so it's deliberately unclear, as we are now seeing his transformation. Number 9. This is set out as a rhetorical question to highlight the fact that his transformation is strange and confusing. But the chaos of running towards the opposition in war is also perplexing. Number 10. Running is repeated twice, and runs is also mentioned in this stanza. This also adds to the chaos, the speed, and the fear of the situation. Number 11. There's enjambment in line 11, but if you look at it, lines 11 to 15 are all enjambed, and this is where run is mentioned in some form in 3 ways. Therefore, the running of the soldiers is reflected in the lines running into one another without a pause. It adds to the speed and commotion of the subject matter. Number 12. Much like the enjambment reflecting the theme of running in the previous lines, the caesura here with the full stop, or the pause in poetry, makes the reader stop. This therefore reflects the soldier's foot stopping in mid-stride. Stanza 3. I'm going to start reading from the end of stanza 2 as it's enjambed from the previous stanza. Then the shot/furrows threw up a yellow hair that rolled like a flame and crawled in a threshing circle, its mouth wide open, silent, its eyes standing out. He plunged past with his bayonet toward the green hedge. King, honour, human dignity, etc. dropped like luxuries in a yelling alarm. To get out of that blue crackling air, his terror's touchy dynamite. Pause the video now and try the questions below. Number 13. The shot/furrows of the previous stanza are the trenches. The imagery is they have been personified by throwing up a yellow hair, which in of itself is a phrasal verb which conjures up unpleasant imagery of sickness. There's more imagery with the yellow hair, who is a metaphor for a soldier. The colour yellow represents a coward, and the animal hair symbolises timidity and shyness. Therefore, the effect is one of a terrified soldier being unwillingly thrown into a petrifying and dangerous situation of battle. Number 14. A sense of fear is created in numerous ways in this stanza. The simile of the yellow hair, or the terrified soldier, rolling like a flame in a threshing circle, shows that he is darting around erratically in a scared way and not getting anywhere. He is literally going round in circles. The verb crawled suggests an injury, or perhaps that he's hiding from fear. And finally, the description of his features all suggests fear too. So his mouth is wide open and silent, and his eyes are standing out, so they're bulging. The reader can visualise the fear in his face. Number 15. The list is important as it should signify all the proud reasons for the soldiers fighting in battle. They are fighting for their king, for their honour and pride, and for human dignity, so to help humanity. Yet the word etc. downplays those reasons. It tells us that this was once true, that this is why the soldiers came to battle in the first place, but now they are in the midst of the terrifying violence, with only a bayonet at hand, these ideas become meaningless. Number 16. 2 quotations which appeal to the sense of sound are "drop like luxuries in a yelling alarm" and "the blue crackling air." If we start with "drop like luxuries in a yelling alarm," we've got king, honour, human dignity, etc. as luxuries which seem hollow and pointless in the midst of the action. The personification of the yelling alarm could be the brutal sounds of war happening all around them. It could be the alarmed, so that scared, yells of his fellow soldiers, or it could be his superiors yelling orders. The blue crackling air also appeals to sense of sound, as it helps us to imagine the gunfire, which makes the situation all the more terrifying for our ill-equipped bayonet-toting soldiers. Number 17. The final line, "his terror's touchy dynamite," has alliteration with a repetition of the T sound. This sound highlights the sense of fear, as if the slightest touch would make him jump. That T sound also reflects the sound of gunfire. Touchy suggests that he is on edge. His nerves are stretched to the limit, so the slightest thing could make him jump and attack. Dynamite, of course, represents the explosives in war, yet it also indicates the soldiers have lost their humanity and are reduced to being nothing more than weapons themselves. Your question today is, how is tension created in Bayonet Charge and one other poem in the Power and Conflict cluster? Your points could be that Hughes creates tension by beginning his poem in media res, so in the middle of things. It could be with his inclusion of violent imagery and of fear, or it could be that transition of the soldier into a killing machine. As ever, choose quotes with devices so you can explain the effects of these devices. For your exploration, write as much as you can about the quote, think of its many meanings and explain yourself clearly. Your zoom in can be into a single word type or to a device. As for your zoom out, it can be historical context or the author's purpose. Be sure to send your work to your English teacher for feedback. Good luck. Pause the video now. Okay, to finish off, I'd like you to create some revision aids which will help you in Year 11. So select between 2 to 4 quotations from Bayonet Charge and create some aids for them. So these could be in the form of flashcards, mind maps, quotes with words missing, images, or just anything else which you think will help you to remember important information. Pause the video now. Well done for finishing the lesson. I hope this has been useful for you. Take care.